Ultimately, what I'm trying to tell you with this video is that perfectionism is a form of procrastination. It is keeping you from achieving the goals and dreams that you have, and it shows up in ways like this. Hi guys, my name is Victoria. I'm a former COO who turned to freelance digital business management. I have over 10 years experience in business management now. I've done everything from painting walls, managing teams, running marketing, operations, and so much more. And now I'm starting this YouTube channel as a way to share all life and business things that I've learned over the past 10 years and connect with more people. We're going to talk all about perfectionism or being a perfectionist, habits, what it looks like, really how it impacts your life, and more importantly, how we can actually solve that problem. So let's dive in. All right, so first off, the problem, perfectionism or being a perfectionist. Listen, if you found this video on your own, you probably already know what this is. There's probably a reason you clicked on this video. You probably feel like you kind of identify as a perfectionist already, and you might feel like you're having some struggles with that. But we are going to talk about what perfectionism looks like just to cover our bases. So, the characteristics of a perfectionist, all right? A lot of times you want to take over everything yourself because you feel as if no one cares as much as you do, or that they're not going to do it right, okay? Feeling overwhelmed by the amount of projects and tasks you're working on. Basically, you say yes to way too many things. Sometimes you wait to do things because you want to make sure you have it all planned out first. You might focus on the tiniest details of a project because they all feel important to you. You also just have so many priorities. Your to-do list is slam-packed full of anything and everything, and it's all important and it's all urgent, right? And you want to make sure that you get things done right the first time. You don't want to have to feel like you go back and back and back to things over and over again. You might find yourself changing plans or changing focuses a lot, or obsessing over tiny details because something just isn't quite right. And you need to be perfectly clear, have a full understanding of everything in order to make a decision. So maybe you struggle with decision making a little bit. And you feel immense guilt or self-loathing if you get things wrong, or if you maybe don't feel needed or wanted, particularly by somebody that you see as an authority figure. All right. And we're going to talk about why we do this. So like what payoff do we get for being a perfectionist? Because the fact is, we would not be perfectionists if we didn't feel like there was a payoff to being one. You don't choose a habit because it's negative all of the time. You choose a habit because there's some kind of benefit to it. And as perfectionists, a lot of times ours is related to like affirmation or recognition. You probably have a lot of people come up to you and say what a great job you did, or I'm so proud of you. You get awards and recognition at work. You might get pay raises at school. You get good grades and awards. Being a perfectionist ultimately grants you recognition, and it can really open up a lot of opportunities for you within your life, right? Like doing great work tends to be how we're taught to be successful. You probably hear a lot of these things. You've thought of everything. You did such a great job. You're so detail oriented. You're such a hard worker. How do you do it all? And of course, I'm proud of you. All wonderful things to hear. So if all of these great things happen from being a perfectionist, from focusing in on the tiny details, from taking on a lot of work, what's the problem? The problem is that perfectionism is ultimately one big fat lie, and that's what this entire video is about. Perfectionism is actually just a way that we procrastinate. And we procrastinate out of a fear-based point, self-doubt, and self-criticism. So ultimately, perfectionism really isn't sustainable. It's energy draining, it's unattainable, it's unfulfilling, and it forces you to procrastinate on the things that would actually matter to you. What does that look like? Fear of judgment. You probably think to yourself, what will others think about me if I fail at this? Or what will others think of me if I can't do this? Fear of failure. What if I don't make it? What if I can't do it? Fear of success. Yes, this is a thing. Because a lot of times what we think about is, okay, great, if I'm successful at something, what happens after the success? Can I actually handle the responsibility that comes next? Self-doubt, I've never done that before, or I don't know how. Who am I to? For example, you might be interested in writing a book, but you might be sitting there questioning to yourself, who am I to write a book? I'm not an expert in such and such. Self-criticism, I never do things right, or I screw everything up, I'm too lazy. As a perfectionist, what we're doing is we tend to just kind of create this sort of blanket cure for those fears. We tell our selves, like, if I do everything perfectly, no one will have anything negative to say about it. It's that fear of judgment coming through. I have to do this project because they asked me to and I don't want to let them down, or they won't like me if I say no. So you continue to say yes to things. Ultimately, what I'm trying to tell you with this video is that perfectionism is a form of procrastination. It is keeping you from achieving the goals and dreams that you have, and it shows up in ways like this. You might spend a ton of time planning, but you never take action. Ideas are great, but they're ultimately useless if you don't ever take action on things. Or you just have way too many tasks on your to-do list and you're afraid to delegate. You might do really good on a lot of projects, but maybe you're not contributing your best to any particular project because you're stretched way too thin. Your focus changes a lot, which causes you to feel like you are working really hard all of the time. And so you spend all of this time working, but because you're changing focus so much, you're not really moving the needle on any of those projects. You're not really making a big enough impact. You have trouble making decisions out of fear of making the wrong one. You struggle with time management, always believing it'll take you less time to complete something than it actually does. And when you feel like you've failed, it crushes you emotionally. It makes it really challenging to get back up, start over again, or continue where you left off. It really slows down your overall progress. And when someone else gives you criticism or feedback about your work, and I'm not talking like they just trash talk your work, but I'm talking about people, the real mentors of your life who are going to offer true constructive criticism and feedback. As a perfectionist, you struggle to take it without taking it personal to you because you have literally put everything that you possibly could into a particular project. And so when somebody critiques that, they're critiquing you, or at least that's what it feels like, right? And you feel immense guilt when you say no to someone or you can't keep commitments. Listen, perfectionism has served you in some ways. It has brought you some great recognition. It's probably opened up some doors for you. It's maybe brought you some pay raises or promotions, awards. But we got to find a balance that's going to work towards our goals and towards what we want in this life. So I don't want to live like this. I hope you don't either. Let's look at how to change it. So we know the problem. The problem is being that perfectionist or practicing perfectionism, right? The solution is to become what is called an essentialist. And we're going to get into what an essentialist is. But I do have some good news for you. If you've been living as a perfectionist for a long time, then you have really crafted some skills as far as doing great work while under immense pressure that you've put on yourself, and usually in short timelines. So when you change your focus from that perfectionist lifestyle over to an essentialist lifestyle, you're going to find that your work just explodes in your capabilities and the impact that you have and what you're able to do. It's amazing. So what is an essentialist? An essentialist is a new mindset. An essentialist is all about believing that most things are not essential, and then actively choosing, strategically choosing to only pursue the most impactful things, the essential things. It's about knowing your true priority and choosing it, okay? I know that as we go through this, it's going to sound really scary. You're going to be like, I don't understand how this is possible. Just hang with me. We're going to get through a few actionable steps that you can start implementing this week in order to move from that perfectionist lifestyle over to an essentialist lifestyle, okay? Let's review the characteristics of an essentialist. An essentialist knows their number one priority. They make an active choice to say no to most things that come along because they don't align with that number one priority usually. They're all about being in control, using their freedom of choice to say no to things that ultimately are not going to be impactful for them, and choosing that number one priority. And as a result, they have unrelenting focus and discipline on the most important things. Let me introduce you to one of my all-time favorite self-help books, Essentialism by Greg, I think you pronounce his last name as like McKeown. I don't really know. McKeown. Sorry, but it is an incredible book. It's absolutely amazing. It's my favorite self-help book ever. I read this a few years ago, and it really changed my life, and it really made me see how I was practicing a lot of perfectionist, people-pleasing kind of tendencies, and how to rework my life into more of an essentialist mindset. I do encourage everybody to pick up this book. I will leave a link in the description for it so that you can find it super easily. I read it several years ago, and then I reread it specifically in preparation for this video today. And I did pull out a few things directly from this book about how to be an essentialist in this video and some of my actionable steps. But I do encourage you to go back and read it, because you're going to pick up things that are either more important to you or capture things that I didn't even cover in this video, right? All right, so how do we practice essentialism? Okay, to recap, essentialism is a mindset. It's about understanding that no longer is everything important, but you're going to choose what is important, and you're going to actively focus on that as solely as you can, okay? I know that this sounds like kind of scary, especially if you have a lot on your plate right now. You're going, there's just no way that I could do this. But I've got 6 actionable steps that you can take with you after this video. Start implementing them. Start experimenting in your life and see how it affects it, right? So let's get started. Step number 1, schedule time to think and use this time to determine your number 1 priority. So you ever feel like you are so busy that you're like literally that gif of a hamster on a wheel that's running, and like if the hamster were to stop or if the wheel were to stop, it might just like fly off somewhere, right? Like we get so sucked in to the need of like marking everything off on the checklist that you don't stop and think about if the things on the checklist actually matter or not. We have to be able to stop and schedule time to actually think, what is the most important thing right now? What is the most important, impactful thing I could be doing with my time? And if you're too busy to stop and think, you're too busy, period. It's time to start letting go of some of those things on your to-do list. Determine that they are not important. Determine that they are not urgent. And just find like 30 minutes to an hour to sit down. If you're not sure what is important at that time in your life, I love to sit down with a journal and brain dump everything that's on my mind. You just write it out. Doesn't have to be organized or pretty. You just write it out. Whatever is floating around in your mind, you get it down on paper, and then you look at it and you just ask yourself, what's actually important on this paper, right? What actually matters to me? And there's a great quote from the Essentialism book. If you don't determine your priorities, someone else will for you. If you don't determine your priorities, someone else will for you. Step number 1, just scheduling time to think and use this time to determine your priority. Your number 1 priority. All right, step number 2, experiment with your current schedule and task list. If you're the person from the first example, you need this one as well, okay? You've got to take 1 and 2 together. But this is all about us creating more space to be able to work on the impactful things. So in step number 1, you really needed to determine what the impactful things were. In step number 2, we're going to create space for the impactful things so that we can begin to work on them, all right? And how do you actually do that? I left a few examples on the slide here for you, but we need to start looking at ways to knock down our to-do list, to minimize it a little bit. And we also need to look at our calendars and figure out where we can remove some things that maybe don't have an impact. And this is where we just have to experiment, right? So can you miss that 2-hour-long meeting and get notes from a colleague instead? Can you choose not to do a particular report? Maybe nobody reads it or it doesn't have any effect on your company anyways. Can you automate a process so that it no longer requires you? And can you delegate one of your tasks, even just one, to somebody else? Or can you mark it off entirely? Maybe you realize that it's not important the way that you originally viewed it, right? There's another great quote from the Essentialism book that I think ties really well with this step, and it's, when you say yes to one thing, you're naturally saying no to another, whether you know it or not. So this is all about every time you say yes to a certain task, every time you say yes to a certain obligation, project, then whether you're aware of it or not, you naturally have to say no to other things because your time is being filled. So the more that you are filling it with the things that do not matter, the more that you cannot fill it with the things that are actually impactful, that are important to you. So let's start removing the clutter out of our lives. Let's start shifting it out, and let's start applying the new, important, essential things that are going to have greater purpose in our life, greater impact on our journey. Step number 3, slow yeses, fast nos, okay? This one is all about us saying yes far too often. So every time that somebody gives you a project or a task, do you ever say yes to it simply because you feel obligated or you don't want to disappoint somebody? Somebody invites you to something, a get-together, a dinner, a party, a club, a whatever, and you say yes simply because you didn't really think about it before you said anything. You didn't give yourself time to think if that was even something you wanted to do, or you said yes because you felt obligated to. It's time for us to start practicing saying no first, saying yes later. I'm going to give you a couple of examples that you can use. Starting with no but. This might be something like, maybe you've made a commitment with your significant other to go to dinner the next night, but a friend comes up to you later, somebody you haven't seen in a long time, and they go, hey, do you want to go to dinner tomorrow night? No, but I can catch up with you next Sunday, right? We're going to keep the commitment to our significant other that way, but we can choose to rekindle with this old friend if we want to at a later time. The let me check my calendar and back to you. This is great for incoming projects and tasks. Somebody else is coming up to you asking if you can take on yet another project or task. And first of all, if it doesn't align with the main goal of your department or your personal goals or whatever it is that you're focused on, then just say no to it to begin. If it does align with the goal, but maybe you're super busy at the moment, you don't have to say no or yes right away, but you say, let me check my calendar and get back to you, right? And then we're going to get back to him in a reasonable time. And then we've got this next one. You're welcome to blank and I'm willing to blank. This one also comes directly out of the Essentialism book, and he talks about this great example where maybe somebody is asking you to give them a ride somewhere. And you might say something like, hey, you're welcome to borrow my car. I'm willing to leave the keys for you, but I'm not going to be able to give you a ride, right? Like, you're establishing exactly what initiative they can take to get whatever it is they need done, but you're also establishing a boundary that, hey, I'm not going to be able to do that for you. This one can make a lot of people feel really apprehensive, this whole slow yeses, fast nos concept. Like, you might feel like you're letting people down by saying no to them initially, but I do want to just remind you that it's better to have a graceful no than a non-committal yes. By just stringing people along with a lot of maybes or possiblies and then never getting back to them, people are going to lose respect for you over time from that. So I would rather you say gracefully no up front with a long-term respect later down the line from people than to say yeses or maybes and then not keep those commitments. Let's be people of integrity and do the things that we say that we're going to do, right? Another great quote from the book: only once you give yourself permission to stop trying to do it all, to stop saying yes to everyone, can you give your highest contribution to the things that actually matter. Step number 4 is all about asking the right questions, okay? This is all about how do you determine if a task is really worth your time and effort? Is it impactful? Is it important to you? And we're going to establish the kinds of questions you can ask to do that. To ask these questions, we specifically have to relate to its value. And I know that sounds a little confusing right now, so let's use an example. The example is perhaps you're cleaning out your closet. You have way too many clothes. You need to do some spring cleaning, get rid of some stuff. It's really common for us to ask questions like, how often do I wear this? Do I like this? Have I worn it recently? Does it look good on me? To determine if we want to keep something or not. But what if we changed our question to something like, if I didn't already own this, how much money would I be willing to pay for it? right? Like that really changes how we evaluate the clothes that are in our closet. The secret to asking the right questions is it helps if you phrase the question as though you're not already involved in it. So in the first set of questions, we've already made the investment of money. We already own the clothing. In this version of the question, if I didn't already own this, we're asking ourselves outside of it with a new perspective. And the reason for this is it's been proven in experiments that people have a tendency to overvaluate something they've already put an investment in. So, for example, if you are in Las Vegas gambling and you lose a lot of money to the slots or one of the tables, you might have a tendency to want to spend more money and in a hope to be a winner later, right? Like to recoup some of your money. The more money that you lose, the more money that you've invested in Las Vegas, the more of a desire that builds up for you to get yourself out of that hole, right? If I lose $100 in Vegas, I'm trying to regain my $100 to feel a little bit better about myself, right? This is how people lose money, is that we start to put a higher value on things because of our time and energy investment. You see this with things like gambling. You see it with things like relationships. People stay in toxic relationships because they already have a time investment in that relationship, and therefore they put more value into the relationship than there actually is. And so how do we actually ask questions that remove the investment portion? Here's some examples. If I wasn't involved in this project, what would I be willing to do to get involved? What would I be willing to do to join it? If I didn't consider any of these tasks urgent, which task would be the most important to me? If I hadn't spent this much time being friends with or being in a relationship with this person, would I want to be friends with them? Would I want to be in that relationship today? Another question I love comes from the book, The One Thing. What's the one thing you can do this week that by doing it, everything else would be easier or unnecessary? I think this is a great question to ask, especially if you are kind of in step one, where you're taking time to think about what your most important thing is. What's the one thing you can do this week such that by doing it, everything else would be easier or unnecessary? And this awesome quote from the book, Essentialism is not a way of doing one more thing. It's a different way of doing everything. It is a way of thinking. I love that. Step number 5, schedule in deep work hours, and preferably in the mornings. This is for the people that you're getting started with your work day. You're like maybe an hour or two into your day. You're checking your emails, you're checking Slack, the Teams, whatever messaging apps and stuff that you guys use at your workplace. You've made your plan, you have your to-do list, you're sitting down to do work, and before you know it, you've like added 10 things to your to-do list rather than actually like marking off stuff, because all these incoming messages have got urgent priority things coming in. Okay, you need deep work hours. Deep work hours is basically just a set amount of time that you're going to schedule for yourself every single day. Again, preferably in the mornings. Isolation is key with this. You have to turn off the email, you have to turn off the Slack, you have to turn off the phone. Really all, like when I do my deep work hours in the morning, I do this every morning. I have some instrumental music playing and I do whatever the most important thing of the day is. If you've ever heard that term like eat the frog first, it's also that kind of concept. You're going to do the hardest task of the day during your deep work hours so that you can make actual impactful progress on whatever the biggest priority for you is. And ultimately, it doesn't matter how much time you put towards deep work hours. It just matters that you do it, right? Like if you can dedicate 30 minutes in the morning, great. If you can dedicate 2 or 3 hours in the morning, great. It's all about dedicating time to the most important priority of your life, undistracted. Nobody can come into your office. Nobody can call you during that time. Nobody can expect replies from you during that time. You're going to dedicate time to making progress on your most important work every single day. Got another great quote from the Essentialism book. Essentialism is not about doing more things. It's about doing the right things. Step number 6, understand that your ideas suck at first. Okay, this one does not come from the Essentialism book. This is all me, all right? But this is something that I felt as a perfectionist. I really had to learn this. Your ideas do not have to be good from the start. In fact, they pretty much never are from the start. The important thing is that you just have to get used to developing them anyways. You need to get used to writing them down. You need to get used to planning them out. You need to get used to presenting them to people. You need to get used to the first draft version of your ideas, because this is how implementation starts. We don't want to get stuck in the planning phase forever. I'm a big planner, by the way. I think planning is very important. I think as an essentialist, planning is very important. But we don't want to stay there forever, and we don't want to get caught using it as a procrastination crutch either forever. So I kind of put an example here. Expecting perfection from the start is like waiting for all stoplights to be green before beginning a road trip. That's what I've learned to accumulate this concept with. If you have an idea for a business, for a book, for an art piece, for whatever, and you truly feel like it would be impactful to your life, you truly want to start taking action on it, but you're kind of waiting to get your idea better established, or you're waiting to understand all things involved before working on the idea, then you're never truly going to get the idea off the ground. You have to be okay with understanding that there is kind of this version of your idea that's going to be really bad at first, and then as you continue to work on it, as you continue to develop it, you're just taking the bad pieces out until you're left with something really fantastic. There's a great quote from Essentialism here that I think ties in really well. There should be no shame in admitting a mistake. After all, you're only admitting that you're now wiser than you once were. Let's compare a little bit about what a perfectionist says versus what an essentialist says. So perfectionists tend to say things like, I have to, or everything is a priority. How can I do everything? I would have to give something up though. I have to do more. Or I just won't sleep, right? Like we just skip out on the sleep entirely. Who needs to sleep, right? Essentialists tend to say, I choose to. Only a few things really matter. What problem am I willing to focus on? That would be a great thing instead of how can I do everything? What problem am I willing to focus on? Instead of what I would have to give up something though, what do I want to go big on, right? What do you want to get excited about? What is going to make a great impact if you focus a lot on it? I have to do more. Essentialists might say less is better. And I just won't sleep tends to turn into sleep will make me more productive, right? Sleep is so important. There's tons of studies out there that say that, okay? Listen, your action plan is just to take at least one of the essentialist steps that I gave you and practice it for like 2 weeks, okay? Come back and let me know what has happened in your life as a result of practicing that. I also encourage you to pick up the book Essentialism and actually read it. To recap what the actionable steps were, it was number 1, schedule time to think, right? Let's not be that hamster in a wheel. Number 2, experiment with your current schedule and task list. Let's start seeing what we can clear out so we can create more space for impactful work. Number 3, slow yeses, fast no's. Start saying no more often. Just say it in a kind way, right? Number 4, ask the right questions. We want to remove our investment portion out of those questions as much as possible. Start asking the right questions that get you thinking about if you truly want to be involved in something or not, or if you truly want a particular thing or not. Schedule in deep work hours. This is that non-negotiable, non-interrupted time to work on the most impactful thing in your life. And understand that your ideas suck at first. We're going to take the bad out of the ideas as we continue to produce it, as we continue to develop it, right? I'm going to leave you off with one final quote that I really love. The way of essentialism means living by design, not by default. I hope you got something out of this video. If you did, please leave a like, share it with a friend, and, subscribe for more videos just like this. This is my very first long form video on YouTube. I've been procrastinating on getting this kind of content out. It's something I've been thinking about for probably a year now. I hope you like it. Even if you didn't or you've got some constructive feedback for me, please leave a comment. I'd love to see it.